All right, trucks at Pocono. Here are the settings that I'm using. Pretty standard. This is just my comfort-based steering ratio and steering offset. I go a little bit negative on the steering offset because that's what feels like it gets me straighter on the straightaways. And then brake bias, I'm at 60. You're not going to be using the brake too much. Just little taps here or there to rotate the car. Not as important as when you're really trailing the brake to make the corners. Except in the corners, I wonder if you don't even have to use brake in the first place. But when in doubt, always trail brake. It's just going to help you. It doesn't feel like to me that there's a place where you can go like throttle everywhere. Maybe turn 2 you can send it in a way that I haven't been able to do yet, but I'm pretty sure you aren't able to. Yeah, that car won't stick down there. Might get lucky with some track temperature cool in here with the shade on the track. So we're gonna set up for turn 1 here, get way out wide, throttle as early as you can, make sure it's coming down the track this whole time. And as it slides back up the track, we unload the wheel, and that's how we get our run back to the line. Turn 1 here. We want to get to the bottom, but we don't want to get there right away. Very good. Full throttle, let it come back up the track. Might get a little bit tight, but hot lap, so that's okay. Turn 2. Want to go that full throttle as early as possible, carry the momentum. Missed the bottom very slightly, but because I was able to really early on the throttle, it was all good. Turn 3, widen it out a bit, little brake tap. Keep it down here as long as you can. It's going to want to slide up, and that's okay. Keep it off the wall there. All right. I think that's pretty good for the track temperature that we're on. You might see a little bit colder than this. Let's see what the track temp is. 84. Yeah, so if you get into the 70s, low 70s, you can get like half a second better than this. But around this 80s mark is where this lap time will be pretty good. Okay, let's take a look at it. So, we talked about the run up already. Get the car pointed, and then just go. As long as the car's driving down the hill, you can just really send the throttle here, and that's how you get the run. Okay, turn 1. So make sure that you're not completely full out of the gas all at once. I do it kind of in stages because I'm not the smoothest person in the world. Ideally, you want that to be smooth out of the throttle, but you can kind of cheat. If you just go 100 to 50 to 0, it kind of does the job. Mostly, if you trust me. But I do just a little brake tap after I'm about 2 lanes up down to about half a lane up, and then when I'm about half a lane up from the yellow, that's when I pick back up my throttle to get my maintaining throttle, about 50%. So you want to catch that yellow line with your throttle. You see that throttle before the yellow line. Brake half a lane up, catch the line with your throttle, and then it'll just stick. And then you can go full throttle. Might have wanted to be down there a little bit longer, but getting that run off the corner is so important that if you're maxing out your throttle point to where you're just about where I am and almost hitting the wall but never really losing anything, that's how you're going to get that ideal run out of 1. Okay, turn 2. So this truck doesn't love to get that nose pointed early. Like I was doing the Xfinity earlier for this video, and the Xfinity nose loved pointing down to that yellow. So I probably under rotated a little bit on entry, but again, you see this as I am getting off the throttle. That's when I'm turning down to the yellow, half throttle, and then brake from about 2 lanes up to about that bottom lane. I did pretty much get to the yellow. You can be a little bit lower than that, but for all intents and purposes, it's fine. And then full throttle. As long as the car is not plowing tight, you're going to make it if you don't apex too early. Some people, it's a lot of the times I apex too early in turn 2, and that means I have to wait on the throttle. But if you kind of get that middle of the turn apex, or even a late apex for some reason, you can really just mash the throttle from there and be okay. Turn 3. A little wider entry here. Again, throttling out in stages, but ideally you want to be smoother than me. So 100 to 50-ish to hold to 50, and then brake from about a lane up, get down to the curb. Once you get down to the curb and stick to it, gas up. Might have gotten away with a little bit more brake there on the curb. That was pretty tight coming off the corner here. You can notice it's a slight tiny mistake. When I pick up the throttle here, you see how I just instantly hit the yellow line and come back up? We want to be staying at that yellow line for at least a second or two. So I just picked up a little too much throttle there to meet the curb. You see how I meet the curb at like 80% throttle? I'm always going to be sliding up the track. If I'm meeting that curb at like 50, 60, 70% throttle, that's when I can kind of stick to that yellow line. And I'm able to then move up to 100 and get that better angle, less wheel spin, more hooking up your tires, better runoff. Don't know what better that lap time would have been. I don't think it's that much, but especially for a long run, that is something to keep in mind. When people wear their tires at Pocono, it's because they're doing things that hurt their tires that don't necessarily do anything productive for them. Okay. We'll do a few laps here since Pocono is a long track. The lines are honestly more of the same, at least at the beginning, so I'm going to talk about my goals for the long run so that I'm not, my points may change, but my goals never change. So for instance, turn 2 here, always want to get to that bottom, don't want to get down there too early. Very fine line, very easy for me to mess up. I think I might be carrying a little bit too much throttle into there. My timing might be a little bit off. Turn 3, want to stay on that curb past when it tightens. So I'll just show you here. We get down to the curb. Notice how the curb tightens about a little bit. It was hard to tell because I didn't pick up my throttle. I forgot to. But there's a point where the curb tightens a little bit, and you really want to make sure that you stay on that curb even past then, and then you can go. It's very, very tiny, like, difference. Smooth out the throttle. We want to get down to that yellow. We want the car to stick to it. Once it sticks to it, we can pick up the throttle, just full throttle it. Car's fine at this point. If your car feels neutrally balanced, maybe it's a little bit loose, that's perfect. If it's plowing tight up to the wall, you're throttling too early. Okay, turn 2 is the timing turn. Better. Like that. Might be a little bit of an underdrive, but the lap time really isn't that bad. Then turn 3. Bring down the brake. Stick it down there. You can see me lose some time there. But my run is similar off the corner. I lost about a 1/10 to my hot lap. But having that car push up for the entire second half of turn 3 is just horrible on tires. So that's the concession and lap time that we're going to make. Especially do it if you got some room to yourself. There's going to be people pushing. Like, for instance, there, that was a pretty hard pushing that maybe didn't do anything that productive. So turn 1 and turn 3, we want to stay on that line or that curb for a little bit extra time than what we did on hot lap. Underdrove entry there a little bit. I'm just not amazing at making that entry perfect each time. Just not my strong suit. Then turn 3 here, brake down the curb, keep the throttle so that we stay on the yellow, get that run off the corner. Once the tires really wear, I bet that there's going to be people downshifting to 3rd. That's an option. Just make sure that you're downshifting on low revs. If you downshift on too high revs, you're going to just get 4-wheel slides that are counterproductive. See if we do better here. A little bit more of an arc. Helps out with the run off the corner without hurting the car too much. That was pretty good for what it is. Giving just a little bit up on entry so that we have that same run. As long as you have the exits at Pocono, you're going to be fine. Got down there perfectly. That was probably my best turn 2 yet. I think I'm just getting my nose pointed not quite early enough, and that one was the first one where I really did it. Send it a little bit more into here. No, see, I have to turn my wheel way too much. I was definitely doing all right before with or that earlier arcing entry and then try to pick up the throttle early. The car just doesn't really have the rear grip to make that much deeper. Do one more lap here, try to put it all together. That's gonna be tight. Yeah. That's not ideal. So that kind of just goes to show where if you're really just trying to make apexes, you're gonna get eaten up. What you want to be doing is getting to your lines, getting to your curbs, and sticking to it for about a second or two. We'll take a look at the tires. That felt like a right front burner to me. Pretty even. Well, I think the right front's the one that's going to be going over time. That's my opinion, but we'll see. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you all on the track.